Isaac, it's me. I wish I could talk to you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about everything. I just wish I could talk to someone. It's all falling apart here. I can't believe what's happening. Strange. Such a little thing.
Hey everybody, how's it going? This is TUSDarryl and welcome to my review for Dead Space Remake. It's long overdue, I am well aware, and, well, if it's not out already, so was the Lost Ruins review. A lot of stuff has been going on with work and this and the other, but you're not here for excuses, you're here for the review. So I'm just going to preface this by saying this is off script because I'm so behind with reviews. Lost Ruins is the only one that actually had a script to it. This and the Resident Evil 4 remake review and possibly Hi-Fi Rush. I don't know what future Daryl's going to do, or past Daryl, what he did, depending on when this video is up. But I just want to get my thoughts out there now rather than trying to think of the perfect way to phrase them, I guess. I bumped my mic. I'm sorry if you heard that. Anyway, without further ado, let's start with how the game looks. If you've seen my other videos, then you would know that I played the original Dead Space before this one came out a long time ago. Very long time ago, actually. I think it was when it actually released. I didn't own it myself, but my cousin did, and I did play through it, and then I eventually got it myself, and I finished it. And if I didn't, then my memories are messing with me. But either way around, I was one of those people, still kind of am, who say that this game did not need a remake. Like, obviously this exists strictly because of the success of the Resident Evil remakes. That's the headcanon I'm sticking with. That's the hill I'm dying on. There may be a completely different reason. Maybe EA just said, you know what, maybe it's time now. But the correlation just feels... I don't think it's a coincidence. Let's just put it that way. Like, the original game already held up so well, and it still does to this day. But I will give credit where credit is due. EA Motive have done a fantastic job with the game from a visual standpoint. I don't agree with a lot of the changes made to some of the characters and how they look and whatnot, particularly, I'm speaking for like Isaac here. I feel like he could have used a beard or something, but at that point, that's more of a personal... I'm not gonna say personal opinion. This is all a personal opinion. It's more of just that's like just something I'm used to seeing on Isaac from the older games. With him being completely shaven is just odd to me. But otherwise, you know, he looks fine. I get that he's, you know, designed to look closer to I almost said Oscar Isaac to Gunnar Wright, but all in all, fantastic presentation. I love the way that the game looks in general. Even when I'm referencing the old one, this game still nails the lighting. The darkness truly feels dark, and I know that sounds weird to say for a game like this, and in general, like of course you want your darks to look dark. The thing is, not a lot of games get that right. They're like, oh, it's dark, but it's like dark as if you had some dim lights around the area. But no, when Dead Space gets like dark, it gets really, really, really dark. So it's nice to see that the detail still pops through in a lot of different ways when you turn on your flashlight and stuff like that. And just generally speaking, the graphical fidelity as well, what you would expect from a next-gen game. All of that rambling essentially amounts to the graphic do be looking good. It do be looking good. Now, you might have noticed that I skipped over the story portion. First of all, that was an accident. I am out of practice by this point. Again, I don't know if Lost Ruins is already out yet or not, but if it is, you know, great. If it's not, then that video was recorded before I took this very long break of a month. But either way around, I skipped over the story on accident, but I'm going to give a brief, not synopsis. I think I'm safe to just leave it out for the most part, since it's a remake, but I will say that there are additions and changes to the game that some of them I agree with. In fact, I'll throw the game a bone. A lot of them I agree with, and I love how they flesh everything out. But some things, without getting to spoilers, I didn't agree with some of the changes, and one of them is a pretty big change that just left me feeling, I see what you did there, but you didn't have to do it. You could have just left it as it was. But I digress. The story is still solid, if not more solid than the original, now that Isaac can speak and actually talk with Kendra and Hammond and all the others and actually have the dynamic of bouncing off of them. It doesn't feel like they're just talking at you. They actually feel like characters now speaking to another character. Granted, I would have been completely fine if Isaac was still silent, because I liked the vibe that you got from being in Isaac's suit, air quotes, in the original Dead Space, and having that feeling of you're isolated, you're alone. Isaac ain't saying a word outside of fuck or whatever when he stomps something. Unless I'm confusing that with Dead Space 2. Either way, he shouts when you stomp things. But generally speaking, the story is still solid and is definitely improved. It just, there's some extra bits that didn't need to be there. Moving on to sound.
There's a broken tram car blocking the tunnel. It's gridlocked the system, and the data board's burned out. I can't lift the lockdown or call the tram until we get a spare from the maintenance bay. But it's all on Isaac's side of the quarantine.
I'll handle it. Just make sure there's power to the repair systems.
And Isaac?
Yeah?
I'm sure Nicole's okay. She's the doctor, right? She'll do the smart thing.
Yeah. Yeah, she always does. Find somewhere safe. I'll be back soon.
And actually, before I get to sound real quick, and this is the beauty of me going off script, because I can just jump right into this thought as it crosses my mind, even though that leads to a lot of rambling. I apologize again, but there's you don't see it, but off to the side, I am watching back my footage so I can comment on it as I'm going through the review. That's how I'm doing this one. I might do this like that in the future, who knows? But I'm doing that, and I was at the point in the game where, in the beginning, and this isn't a spoiler, it's the first, literally the first 10 minutes of the game. On the ship, after you get onto get on to Ishimura, there's a part where Isaac, where there's like essentially a lore note that you can read on the ship, and meanwhile Hammond, Kendra, and Chen, a named character this time around rather than a faceless, air quotes, faceless NPC from the first game, they walk off and they're essentially waiting for you on the bridge. Can I just say real quick, I am tired of AAA games rushing me when I'm trying to read something. I am legit tired of it. You're getting a rant this time. Like, I'm sitting here trying to read, like, oh, let me read the lore in this thing and the other. Like, I know the lore. I know what Isaac has been through, not all of it. So there were some tidbits in there that I didn't know, but I was reading through it because I'm like, I want to see if they added anything. I want to see if they changed anything. And meanwhile, in the background, you can hear Hammond going, Isaac, let's go. And Kendra going, hey, you coming, Isaac? And Chen going, hey, Isaac, you moving? And the thing is, that's fine to do like I'd say every like 5 minutes. That is fine. No, they were going like almost on an interval. 10 seconds, Hammond says something. 10 seconds, Kendra says something. 10 seconds, Chen says something. And then you think you get a breather. No, maybe 20 seconds go by And then they do it again, and they keep doing it. And I could not finish. I did finish reading, but I was just speed reading at that point because I was getting so fed up with that. If I could dock a point from this review, if I actually did a point score, I would fucking dock it, because that is annoying, and I'm sick of the industry as a whole in the AAA landscape doing that kind of thing. Like, oh, the player did not catch up with us. We should keep reminding them that they should hurry up and come along. We should hurry up and help them come along. This is on the same scale for me as you're trying to solve a puzzle, and then your AI partner decides to solve it for you within the first 5 seconds. You don't even get a chance to try. Anyway, the game be sounding good. Dead Space's sound design has always been fantastic. Even in Dead Space 3, which I lambast to this day, and I would much rather play Resident Evil 6. That's just how I feel about Dead Space 3. Just saying. But at the same time, I can never fault the game for having a fantastic sound design. Just like no one can fault Final Fantasy, regardless of which one is your favorite. All of the soundtracks are bangers. And the same goes for Dead Space. Every single game, regardless of how you feel about them, they all have quality ambience. They have quality sound design. It sounds great. You can hear a pin drop from a distance and you're like, what the fuck was that? Obviously, some sounds are different. They're not all lifted. I don't want to say lifted. I don't actually know. But they don't all sound like they were lifted straight out of the original. Like, I will admit that I'm not a big fan of how the stomp looks in this game, nor am I satisfied with how it sounds. It's like, it lacks the punch that the original had. And Isaac looks more like he's having a temper tantrum rather than trying to kill something that's trying to crawl up his leg on the floor. And I've heard some people talk about the plasma cutter and how that sounds like a little weaker than the original. Like, yeah, but it still sounds like the plasma cutter. It doesn't sound like all for like a cheap knockoff or anything like that. Like, no, that's still the plasma cutter. It still has kick. It's just not as bassy, I guess. Anyway, moving on to the bread and butter. We're talking about gameplay. And it's Dead Space. Okay, I'm not going to just leave it at that. I could use that and say that for something like Callisto Protocol, which is just Dead Space. But I'm going to actually elaborate a bit more here. But for this remake, compared to the original game, the combat is more or less the same, but there are some extra additions and tweaks made to it. Like, some weapons have new functions and features added to them. I can't remember them all off the top of my head right now, but some of them have like additional modes of fire that you didn't have before. Also, I don't think this was in the original, but you also couldn't just find the weapons lying around outside of the plasma cutter. They would appear in the shop. In this game, you can miss weapons. You could like walk straight past them and whatnot and never actually pick up certain weapons. As for the combat itself, this game introduces a skin, I forgot what they called it, like a skin feature of some sort where necromorph limbs show damage as they are shot. And in some cases, that skin is like a form of armor. You can tell how much you damaged a necromorph based off of how much of the skin you tore away. Some weapons even blow the skin right off of them, and it makes it really easy for you to follow up with a different weapon. The remake also changes how you approach certain puzzles, one of which is a change to the turret section, if anyone remembers that from the first Dead Space game. I'm not going to say how it's changed here, but let's just say it's more involved, but it feels less like you're just sitting down and aiming your analog stick or your mouse over an asteroid or meteor, asteroid, and you destroy it. Nope, no, I will say it, just straight up. You go outside, and you have to calibrate it that way. You aim at the asteroid flying by with Isaac's plasma cutter, and you calibrate it, air quotes, to the targeting system for the turret. So now, whenever you pull the trigger, then it shoots the asteroid. That's infinitely better than just sitting in a turret seat and having a turret section as if it was still the year. What year did this game come out? 2008? 9? Holy crap. Other than that, different story beats and different events that happen in the game feel more natural now, instead of oh, you need to go find this captain, or need to find his corpse so you can get this thing off of his body. Good job, you got it. Now let's spawn enemies in the room. Rather, now you're going to be treated to a cutscene that Isaac walks into, and it's a lot more involved than that. And then it eventually goes back to just you shooting and killing things. But either way around, there's weight to that now. And I think that's something that I can say about a majority of things in this game, is that there's a weight to everything you're doing. It's not as simple as, oh, go over there, remove that and flip that switch. No, it's a little more complicated this time around, and not in a bad way. But considering how interconnected the ship is now, which by the way you can explore freely, you can use the tram as a fast travel sort of kind of. That used to separate chapters if I remember correctly, but now you can use it as a fast travel to get back and forth in the ship. There are side quests. The side quests run alongside the main narrative though, so you don't have to worry about when you go off the beaten path. So when you're doing a narrative beat or whatever that for the main part of the main story, the main event, then you can step to the side a bit and do the side quests while that's going. And those are also very, very well done and very involved. So again, there's more of a weight to everything that was already good, if that makes sense. But I can go on and on and on about the gameplay and how great it is for a while, frankly. Oh, right. I skimmed over that part while I was rambling / talking about it's slipping my mind. The environment. So the environment for Dead Space has changed. It's still recognizable and whatnot for the remake, but they play with your expectations a bit. And I'm not going to spoil how, but rooms that were designed a specific way in Dead Space 1 follow a similar structure in in Remake, but with some extra bells and whistles, or condensed, which in some places is completely fine. I will say that towards the end of the game, by the way, that there's one chapter in here, or one area that I don't think was needed, that kind of just felt like padding towards the end, but maybe that was just my impatience by that point talking. Either way around, fantastic gameplay. Moving on to the final verdict. I'm not going to lie, I was one of those people that was like, EA Motive's gonna fuck it up. They're gonna screw it up. I heard they did great with that Star Wars game they did, but I was like, I can't see it. Then I saw the documentaries, interviews, whatever you want to call them. I saw those, and I was like, okay, they sound like they're doing their homework. They're fans of Dead Space themselves. Okay, let's see what they do. And then the trailer came out. I was like, okay. I'm not a fan of some of the faces, but okay. And then eventually, having played it myself, I'm like, oh no, y'all knew. Y'all really knew. So I'd say, assuming they continue forward and remake Dead Space 2, or just make a new Dead Space with this, from here, that I trust them with it. They'll do great. In fact, I heard they're working on an Iron Man project. Sign me up. Like you already have, and I didn't mention this before, you changed the movement in Zero Gravity to how Zero Gravity works in Dead Space 2 and 3, rather than how it works in 1, and it feels so good. With how they did it in this game. It's not that much different, but I just love the way it's done. The fact they were able to do it that well. Man, I must have had really low expectations for this game. But like I said earlier, I didn't want a new one. I didn't want the remake. I disagreed with it, but I happily ate my words. This game is great, and it gets a go for it from me. So, if you're willing to sit down and be terrified, if you can stomach that, if you can stomach the gore, if you can stomach the fact that Isaac talks, because I know that's still a divisive thing for people in the community, then I definitely recommend Dead Space to you. Dead Space Remake is available on the PS5, Xbox Series S, and Windows. So for those of you who have last-gen consoles, I'm sorry, it's not on those. It is on next-gen now, or current-gen. I always have a hard time trying to decide when I should start calling something current-gen rather than next-gen. Some would say that the switch should happen as soon as the new consoles are out, but I'm like, it doesn't, until the ball really gets rolling, it doesn't feel like it yet. But either way around, if you own a PS4 or the old version of Xbox, then I'm sorry, you're out of luck. But if you have a PS5 Xbox Series S, X, and you have PC, you're all good. Okay, that's it for the Dead Space review. Thank you for tolerating that. It was kind of nerve-wracking for me too, because I go off script a little bit sometimes when I'm doing my reviews, but otherwise I try and stick as close to it as possible. And I love being conversational like this, but sometimes I feel like I ramble too long, I lose my point, and that probably happened in this review, and I didn't go into as much detail about things as I could have, and I wasn't as, I don't know why this is a critique of myself, but I wasn't as jokey or witty. I just kind of stated what I liked in this and the other. Normally I try to write jokes into my scripts and stuff like that, or they'll just come up naturally while I'm talking. But, you know, that's it. That's all. Next review will be Resident Evil 4 Remake, assuming that it's not already out, because I'm recording these reviews and after Lost Ruins back to back. So Dead Space Remake will be out when this one is out. I'm getting time confused. It's weird. And then Resident Evil 4 Remake, and then Hi-Fi Rush. And then after that, I am not going to hold myself to any other game after that until I actually have some other games beat. So with that, I'll see you guys around. My brain randomly popped up with Street Fighter. Do I want to review Street Fighter? I might review Street Fighter. That's a thought. Anyway, I hope you all have enjoyed your stay. If you didn't know, because I didn't, one more thing. If you didn't know, I do stream on Twitch. I will eventually start linking that in the chat. I don't have a definitive schedule or anything like that. I kind of just do it when I feel like it. But I do that sometimes. If you want to stop through, say hi. If you don't, that's completely fine. Enjoy your stay elsewhere. That sounded very passive aggressive. I'm sorry. Enjoy your day. I'm done. If I try and follow up with anything else, it's going to sound progressively passive aggressive. So I hope you guys have enjoyed your stay. I'm TUSDarryl. Look forward to the next review. Or if you're stopping through a stream one day, I'll see you then. Bye.